We have. I wanna study something for a few minutes with the chevra. I want to do two things now. Before it is, we will daven mincha together. I want to study something on Parshas Vayechi. For a long time, it's been important to me. This Rashi, I never expounded like the aymek of why it was important. I want to expound on, and then I want to, for a few minutes, learn something about today, about the day itself, this tainus, Asar B'Tevis that we're in. So I want to do these two things. There's a derech eretz of the Torah that we're taught in Parshas Vayechi that I always want my kids to know. And there's a deep reason why you have to know. The successful living requires to know this derech eretz, but there's a much deeper aymek to this derech eretz. Much. I would like to try today to explain the deeper aymek to this derech eretz. Right at the beginning of the parsha by Yaakov Avinu, it says, "Vayishtachu Yisrael alrei shamita." Yaakov Avinu bows on his bed, and there's an obvious strangeness to a father bowing to his son is strange. The tata bowing to the son is a very, very big oddity and something it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. The son should be bowing to the father. The father should not be bowing to the son. And Rashi says at derech eretz that every single person has to learn this. I always taught this to my kids. I try to tell them about it, but today I want to explain the deeper aymek of this derech eretz. The derech eretz is talei be'idnei sagidli. The fox in his time bowed to him. I always try to teach my kids, you're in a classroom and you disagree with the teacher. The principal is acting crazy, doing things, saying things. I always try to teach my kids, talei be'idnei sagidli. The fox in his time, you have to bow to him. This is not like a b'diavad of sorts. This is a reality that right now you might disagree with the person. There are guys in yeshiva who take jobs in the summer, and their boss is so dumb, and he runs the business so stupidly, and they're right. Except talei be'idnei sagidli. The fox in his time, you bow to him. And Yaakov bows to Yosef. Yosef is the Melech of Mitzrayim. He's the Mishnah Melech. And as such, Yaakov Avinu bows to him. Talei be'idnei sagidli. The fox in his time, you bow to him. Now, this is a skill and an art all of us have to learn. I'm about to go on a plane tonight. On the plane, the steward has some rule, something like this. The seat goes up, down. Talei be'idnei sagidli. It's a fact of life. Right now, she's in charge of this plane. He's in charge of the plane. A fox, it's a skill. It's a reality. I get nervous. Things somebody was asking a question this morning. I couldn't get my head into it. You don't bend Torah to your liking. You study Torah and you bend yourself to the Torah, not the Torah to you. Now, being a person who's by nature a people pleaser and more afraid, so this is like a chazal, this is like my chazal, talei be'idnei sagidli. It's like, So I was always reluctant to really say the aymek. I want to today learn the aymek of talei be'idnei sagidli. There's a very big aymek. You always have to remember, whatever you study in Torah, why is this taught here? It's a truth. It's a successful living is to learn that certain times somebody's in charge. You might even disagree, but talei be'idnei sagidli. Many an unsuccessful person has been a rebbe in a yeshiva and disagreed with the Rosh Yeshiva and caused all sorts of rifts, and they were wrong. Talei be'idnei sagidli. He's the Rosh Yeshiva, so then you have to acquiesce. That's a healthy living and a true living. Talei, you bow to the fox. This is a true living. You don't think he should be the fox. You don't think he's doing it right. There's a truth. This is Torah. Talei be'idnei sagidli. The fox in his time, you bow to him. And there's a Torah. This is the Torah. And certainly this is a skill all of us have to learn, have to accept, have to understand. And you ask, and you're in a position, guys have been a counselor in a camp. And the head counselor, I don't agree, all different things. They have to know this truth of life. Tale be'idnei sagidli. What's taught and where it's taught is very important in the Torah. And this lesson Hashem could have taught us anyway. Yaakov Avinu teaches us this lesson in his entrance to Golus. Yaakov goes to Mitzrayim. Yosef HaTzadik's already there. Yaakov joins him. And right at that point it says, Tale be'idnei sagidli. I think there's an oimek to this. And by the way, when a youngster, and you'll teach your kids, and then there's ridiculous, the teacher is so stupid. There's something to what they're saying. There are two, I'll tell you a maisa in the Musa world that I want to tell you about. There's a famous story in the Musa world that connects to this. There's a big oimek to this. Somebody who had learned in Radin by the Chavetz Chaim for many, many years. And I say by the Chavetz Chaim was not the Rosh Yeshiva of Radin. The Chavetz Chaim worked. The Chavetz Chaim had a store. Don't let anybody try to switch it. Bein HaStarim. It was Bein HaStarim because during his Seder it wasn't working. The Chavetz Chaim had a store. The Gadol Adar had a store in Radin. Ran by him, ran by his wife. He was not the Rosh Yeshiva of Radin, but you can imagine he was the Gadol Adar. And he definitely had shlita over the yeshiva. Reb Naftali Trupp was the Rosh Yeshiva amongst other people, the Rosh Yeshivas of Radin, and a certain answer to the Chavetz Chaim. And everybody who learned in the yeshiva of Radin would wait for the Chavetz Chaim to give shiurim and speeches, and was going there to connect to the Chavetz Chaim, but he was not the Rosh Yeshiva. The Chavetz Chaim was a working person. He dressed as such because it was the truth, and he dressed as a working person, and the Chavetz Chaim had a store. That's the reality. Now, but this person was learning in Radin for many, many years, and then went to Nevardik for an Elul. And after the Elul, after being in Nevardik for Elul, so the person waited online to say goodbye to the Rosh Yeshiva of Nevardik. The Rosh Yeshiva of Nevardik at the time was Rav Avram Yafin, who was a son-in-law of the Alter of Nevardik. The Alter of Nevardik was nifter, was not alive at this point. His son-in-law, Avram Yafin, was the Rosh Yeshiva. Rav Avram Yafin, the yeshiva Rav Eli and I went to, is the yeshiva for Akwe, is called Yeshiva Derech Esan. Derech Esan. Esan means Avram Avinu. The Derech Avram Avinu is Esan, means the mighty one. Esan is Rachi. Esan, the Easterner, is Avram Avinu's name. Derech Esan is the way of Esan. It is named after Avram Yafin. Reportedly, Esan, which means Avram. Esan is Avram Yafin Talmud Nevardik. Avram Yafin, that's Esan, stands for Avram Yafin Talmud Nevardik. And Yeshiva Derech Esan is named after Avram Yafin. Why it's named after Avram Yafin is because Avram Yafin was the son-in-law of the Alter Nevardik. He had a son-in-law, Reb Leib Nekritz, who was a son-in-law and a shtickle Talmud of his. Avram Yafin was a Talmud of the Alter. He had a son, the Alter has a son of Avram Yafin. Avram Yafin has a son-in-law, Reb Leib Nekritz. Reb Leib Nekritz has a son-in-law, Rabbi Per. And that's who started Yeshiva Rockaway. He was one of the starters of Yeshiva Rockaway. So he named it after his grandfather, his father-in-law, and it was named after his Zayda, his wife Zayda, Avram Yafin. So this person went for Elul to Nevardik. After Elul, they were waiting online after Motzei Yom Kippur. They were going to go back to their yeshiva, back to Radin, and they were waiting online to say goodbye to Rebbe Avram Yafin. There was a long line, Motzei Yom Kippur, people speaking to the Rebbe and saying goodbye. And he was waiting to say goodbye. While he was waiting, waiting in line, he thanked the Rebbetzin, Rebbe Avram Yafin's wife, who was a daughter of the Alter of Nevardik. And she asked him, what did you see the difference between Nevardik and Radin? She put him on the spot. What's the difference? He was like, he didn't want to say. Both holy places, Harei Kodesh, try to explain the difference. So famously, the Alter's daughter said, I'll tell you the difference. And there's a tremendous oimek to what she says, I think. She said, in Radin, you see the Chavetz Chaim, and you see what's supposed to be. In Nevardik, you learn what is. She said, you go there, you learn what's supposed to be, and Nevardik, you learn who you are, what is. And what she was trying to say, and we balance in our life she'ifais, ideals, and places we want to be, to the awareness and acceptance of who we are. a lot of the Musar that the Alter was teaching and his Talmidim were teaching is shining a light. Who are you? What are you? An awareness and acceptance and in a knowledge of who I am. She uptight that in Radin you see the Chavetz Chaim and you're on a journey towards where you want to go, and in Vardik you find out who you are. That's what she uptouched him. There is this friction in us all, places we want to go and who we want to be and who we are. The depth of Tale Be'idnei Sagidle, and the reason this is so ridiculous. He should never be the principal. She shouldn't be the teacher. That's all coming from beautiful places. She'ifa is Geula. Everybody's Tzipisa Yeshua. A tremendous craving for what's supposed to be. And that's in bounds. When your kid is upset and the boss is so stupid, kids, it's interesting. I have seen a tremendous amount of tzipisa liyeshua in youngsters. They have a tremendous sense, but there's not, and even things they'll say that someone say chutzpah, they're just craving for what should be. It's the midah of Shammai. If you know the machlokes Shammai and Hillel, the Rebbe explains in Kol HaTorah Kula. Shammai is what should be, and Hillel is what is. The machlokes Shammai and Hillel, din really means what's supposed to be and what could be, and Hillel is very much what is. Whoa. And that's why la'asid lavai, when we say we paskin, just the word psak, both are true. Both are true. Elu ve'elu divrei l'kim chayim. La'asid lavai, the anhaga is like Shammai, the Arizal says, because then it's a world of what's supposed to be. Shammai is what's supposed to be, and Hillel is what is. And that's the friction of a Shammai and a Hillel. And they're both truths. Youngsters a lot, and we take it, old people, that's chutzpah. He's not chutzpah, he's dreaming what should be. He's dreaming. There are people I know that have a lot of Shammai in them, and they're very much, they live what should be. It comes out as very sharp and tough. They don't accept. They don't have a Tale B'idnei Sagile. Galus is built on Tale B'idnei Sagile. In Galus, we paskin like Hillel, bow to the fox in his time, bow to him. But you could be, it's so ridiculous. It's not the way, accept what is, be present to what is. There's a tremendous midah and derech eretz to teach a child. Now don't be, the child will struggle and fight with this, and you try to tell it. I remember sitting with a relative, a precious relative, a big, special girl, a special person. She was struggling with things in school. Everything she was saying, she was right. She was like spot on, with such kindness and care for friends who she felt were being run over. And I was trying to give over Tale Bidnei Sagile, and she was so Shammai, an MS of Shammai. There was a tzipisa liyeshua of what should be, what could be. And it's hard to get somebody to be present. They don't want to let go of that. You're saying such ridiculous, you sound, oh, come on. But there's a tremendous successful living, and we paskin like Hillel in Golos. Today, Bismanenu, we paskin like Hillel. Though the anhaga of Shammai is true also, Eila doesn't mean there's no Shammai today. And all of our lives, all of us have to learn and have to really understand the acceptance of the situation that is. So many people in so many different situations don't accept their situation and make wonderful opportunity of the situation they're in. That has to be part of our arsenal. Tale be'idnei sagile, the facts in his time about him. There's a tremendous depth to it. It's not when you find yourself in situations and you're so frustrated, what should be, what could be, and you catch yourself, don't feel like you're living a b'diavad. You're begrudgingly. No, there's a kinyan, there's a midah, there's an anhaga that's very, very pure and very precious and very powerful. I'm very much living presently in my situation, successfully in my situation, and there's anhaga of the situation. There's a beautiful anhaga. So many people spend their lives wistfully for what should be, and don't enjoy, and don't relish, and don't steig, and don't have success in what is. So now that feeling of wanting what should be is tzipisa liyeshua, that's allowed. But there has to be that counter also of Tale B'idnei Sagile, the fox in his time, bow to him, in acceptance of the situation that is. And so very much at the beginning of the Galus, Yaakov Avinu bows to Yosef. Vayishtach v'Yisrael v'Yishamit, and anybody who hears that should shudder. Whoa, this is strange. It's not. It's not the anhaga of acceptance. Talei b'idnei sagla. Yosef's the leader right now. Things will yet be restored. They'll yet be. Galus is a matzav. This is by Hashem the situation that's supposed to be. Talei b'idnei sagla. Bow to him in its time. I try to teach it to my kids. I think successful living. It's fast that youngsters have a tremendous tzipisa Yeshua. Youngsters are much more like Shammai. It's very interesting. You'll see on your own children one day. They're very Shammai-esque, and you could even see they're so right, and you start saying Talei b'nei Sagalei, they struggle to accept it. There's a tremendous truth to what they're saying. But it's wrong. But there's a successful living, and to be matzliach, Talei b'nei Sagalei. In all our lives, balancing, and there's a truth of tzipisa Yeshua. There's a truth of knowing ideal situations. And there are people who are going to slant to Shammai. Every Shammai has to have this also. Every Shammai has to have Hillel. Every Hillel has to have Shammai. I'm coming today to speak about Talei b'idnei Sagilei, unashamedly, to speak about Talei b'idnei Sagilei, the acceptance of what is. Anybody who has a Netiya, a Hillel Netiya, anybody who has that type of Netiya will have an easier time with this. But so I'm granting that there's Netiya, still leaning. Some people rock the Talei b'idnei Sagilei. This is the situation. They do it rather easily. They may have to actually work on tzipisa Yeshua. When you meet people that are in tzipisa Yeshua, understand it. There are people that the Shammais of the world tend not to accept the matzav. They're so busy of what should be and what could be. What do you mean the matzav that is? They're busy, they're geula type people. Understand them. Please understand what you're saying. When I was talking to this relative, this special person, a person, they were living so Shammai, I was very moved. And I was trying to insert some Hillel, some Talei b'idnei Sagilei, but it's important. It's very important, this Talei b'idnei Sagilei, especially to youngsters. Youngsters have a very difficult time with this. But it's so wrong. All different situations. You've seen this, Akiva? I feel like there's an emisticite to youngsters. Youngsters would paskin like Shammai. I bet you if you learned Shas and you explained every machlokes to young kids, they would typically say like Shammai. Older people would more say like Hillel. That's my guess. I have a sense like that. Right, Russ, is that you sense that? I sense that young people would quicker say Shammai. They have a Netiya. I think they have a Netiya. There's a certain. Maybe it's an older person who maybe has accepted more what is, and a young person hasn't accepted what is yet. There's an emistic kind of freshness of I'm not accepting anything yet. This is ridiculous. You try one day to teach your child in the classroom Talei b'idnei. That's the teacher. Are you kidding me? You know what should be, and they're often right what should be. That's tzipisa Yeshua. Younger
Talmidei Chachamim in general, they're very strict and not understanding. No, this
Shammai.
is exactly how it should be. As they get older, they become more worldly and they chav.
There's a Hillel. There's an aspect of Hillel. Talei b'idnei Sagilei. Ilan, what do you hold? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you shouldn't teach them. What are you teaching? Shammai, Hillel. But Hillel fought with Shammai, and Shammai fought with Hillel. That friction has to be there. Maskim Doivi? You'll see on your kids. You'll see the teachers. We see on ourselves. But it's a tremendous value that this is the situation. There's an acceptance. The Hillel aspect is huge. I'm so not fair because I like this Chazal Talei b'idnei Sagilei. You're allowed if you have an atiyah to something. It's not fair. It's not fair. Any chazal that you. It's not fair because there's a mile of tzipisa liyeshua. If this is hard for somebody, so you could smugly say tale bidnei sagidle. There's a sugya of tzipisa liyeshua, and we're not equally built, all of us. In these two pratim, we're not equally built.
Yeah.
So when you preach what you have in a tiyah, you have to always remember that there's two aspects, and they're both emes. Shammai and Hillel, so you have to be careful how you preach it. But to me, it took me a long time to chap this. For years, I would tell people talib in their family members, my children, and try to share this talib, and it just seems so important to me. And I couldn't understand somebody not being that way, and now I understand there's a tzipisa liyeshua the other way. When you speak to a youngster in a job and try to tell him, he's your boss. Let's go. The guy he's furious. The guy, and he refuses to accept a maris that he does. And by the way, he'll accept a maris. I'll tell you a story. A guy in yeshiva here was labeled. I don't believe there's such a thing. The labels we give today are wild, and we call them as if they're like a mitzius. They're only a way to I don't look at them as boxes, but so there's something called oppositional defiance, this ODD. I think it's nonsense. I'm afraid there's chacham b'agayim, oppositional. So this guy was in yeshiva, he was labeled, he's ODD. Oppositional defiance this one. He's ODD. I want to say, if his Rebbe would tell him to jump off the Empire State Building, he would jump. His Rebbe here. What happened to ODD? What happened to oppositional defiance disorder? What happened to ODD? The answer is that he's very energetic, and typically authority can't stand him because he ruins systems by his energy. So there's a simple principle in life. If you don't hold of me, I don't hold of you. If I hold of you, that means I'm garbage. So anybody who doesn't hold of me, I don't hold of. All of us, every human being in the world. You don't hold of people who don't hold of you. And by the way, the people who don't hold of you are wrong, because you know how big you are. You don't even know how big you are, but at least you know you're big. We're each huge. We're souls. We're each bigger than the world. We're souls. Every human being is. So anybody who doesn't hold of you is stupid and wrong, which is true. And therefore, everybody doesn't hold of you. You're aware that they're stupid and wrong, and you don't hold of them. So he's the oppositional defiance us. He's energetic. Authority never likes him. So he doesn't like authority as long as he's oppositional. The first authority that likes him, he'll be the guy, he'll do whatever he says. He'll do whatever he says. He doesn't have oppositional defiance. He has the simple mitzios that none of us hold of people who don't hold of us. Nobody holds of anybody who doesn't hold of them, because that person's stupid and wrong. So we don't hold of them. So this yesod of tale be'idnei sagidle, and you tell somebody, you talk about a guy who's oppositional defiance disorder, and he doesn't hold of authority, and you start, that person often is a shamaynik. Tzipisa liyeshua. He has a visual of what should be and could be, and the world, and the first Rebbe who's in authority the way he sees it should be. He'll do everything. He doesn't have ODD. He'll listen. He'll march. Anything you say. I have seen guys. The guys all of a sudden by Rai Russ would tell the guy anything in the world. The guy would listen. Mamish. That same. What happened to all the ODD? It disappeared. He's not ODD. He's Shammai. He's Tzipisa liyeshua. He doesn't accept things that are b'di'evid. He holds is ridiculous. I refuse. What he has to learn is some Hillel. He has to learn tale be'idnei sagidli. That right now you're in this classroom. It's not a perfect world, and you're right. And the person is stupid, and it's true, accurate. They're wrong and stupid. You're right. But tale be'idnei sagidli. Right now they're in charge of this classroom. And there's an anhaga of accepting the circumstances that are, and living successfully and powerfully in those circumstances is anhaga. It's an anhaga of a human being, a successful anhaga of galus, that one can be powerfully successful like that. And there's a beauty to that, to tale bidnei sagili. The Alter's daughter said that in Radin you learn what could be, and here you learn what is. There's learning who I am, where I am, and acceptance of where I am and who I am, and haga in that situation of where I am. So that's the first thing, David, I wanted to share on this Asar B'Tevis. It's a shtickle. I said we'll afterwards say Avar Asar B'Tevis. That's of course also that's not a word of Golus. That's the word of Golus. So it is Asar B'Tevis word. It's the beginning of Vayechi. I think it's very successful living in many, many areas of our life, of being present to the situation, and accepting of a situation and thriving in a situation, all different situations that people could have tremendous hatzlacha. I have seen the guys who only succeed in the perfect learning conditions. I spoke about David learning under all different nisyanas. There's a big part of Talei Bidnei Sagilei that lies there. In sports, I like the player, the pitcher, who under all different types of crazy conditions can do well. A lot of being successful in sports is things aren't always going to be the ideal conditions. You're in an away stadium. There's all different funny things can go on. You have an injury, all different things that are not, and you have people that only can succeed in the perfect conditions. And then the greats succeed in all different conditions. The greats can learn under different conditions, can steig under different conditions. Talei Bidnei Sagilei is a midah. It's a midah. It's an anhaga of this is the situation. I'm rocking and pounding this situation. It's anhaga. So it's, instead of whenever you find yourself, it's important thing to teach yourself. Whenever I was talking to Daniel this week, he was talking about he's in a certain school and how it works. Learning how to function and flourish in a situation that might not be the exact ideal, it's an important art and skill and life's midah and an acquisition of this situation. And the person soars and grows in this. It's what we call galus in short. It's, I think, rooted in this Talei B'Idnei Sagilei, the fox in his time bow to him. An acceptance of this situation. Ask him, Daniel. I think it's a huge art. You'll see one day with your mishpacha that it's going to be hard to teach it.
Does it always apply? Is there a place that it doesn't?
When you say does it always apply, Mendy says, I think what you're asking is don't crush Sipi Sili Yeshua. With your children, there'll be kickback. The kickback is there's supposed to be that kickback. Acknowledge the Tzipi Sili Yeshua. At the point that there's no Tzipi Sili Yeshua, it's tragic. Then you're not Talei B'Idnei Sagilei. You forgot what's supposed to be. You've lost the vision of what's supposed to be. That's very sad. It's very sad when you lose a vision of Gula, of what's supposed to be, of what could be. That's very sad. So when you say, does it always apply? Shammai always has to be in the sugya. Do you know what I mean, Shlomo? With your own kids, people they too harsh on the kid. I pray your kid fights back when you try to teach them. I'm giving you my own journey because I would teach Talei B'Nei Sagilei and kids would be mad at me. I've taught it to guys in yeshiva for years and guys get mad. Whenever you have some version of Talei B'Nei Sagilei Akiva, guys get mad at you. I was like, I can't believe what's going on. Why can't I couldn't teach it because I was missing Tzipi Sili Yeshua. And at the point that I accepted and learned Tzipi Sili Yeshua, I could teach Talei B'Nei Sagilei. You know, the Democrat and Republican have a debate. They each can only teach the other guy something if you can acknowledge that what he's teaching, you have to learn. You can only teach this side if you acknowledge there's supposed to be Tzipi Sili Yeshua, John. There's supposed to be a yearning for what should be. If you don't acknowledge that, so you're just devaluing what the other person is saying, you can't teach Talei B'Nei Sagilei. At the point you ignore, you won't be able to teach it well to your kids. And you'll just be you're trying to teach something, they're upset, and you're not on the same page. Acknowledge their yearning and what could be. Acknowledge the picture of what it could be like and how it would look like. You can acknowledge that and you could dream about that. And that's important. Not you should. There's a Tzipi Sili Yeshua that a person should have of the way things could be and should be and are supposed to be and an idyllic world. That's a wonderful thing. Shammai lives. You hear, David? It's an eitzah for Beis Hashem as you're raising a mishpacha, an eitzah, Dav. You hear, Binyams? You'll be surprised, Biam. You'll see. We'll report back. Tell me if kids are more shamay than. Tell me if you'll tell me, Binyamin, if that's true. What were you saying,
Is the
Mickey?
marshal to a fox because the fox is usually not the ruler, like the lion's usually the ruler, but like when it's the fox's time, let him do his thing.
Foxes, this is a fascinating thing, and foxes represent the things that are out of place. What was in the Kodesh Kodashim?
Oh my gosh.
What do you see in the Kodesh Kodashim? Shualim holchem, a fox was in there. Foxes, what does the fox try to convince the fish? Come out of the water and join me. Fox, the cunning of a fox somehow represents the thing that goes where it's not supposed to go. I'm very curious about animals. I can tell you in my shul, I spoke about foxes, a Maisa Shaya. I spoke about foxes. I was talking about the Shualim Holchenbo. And that Shabbos, I spoke in shul about foxes. Right down the Blue Ridge Drive, my wife and I saw a fox trotting. They trot. They have a very cool walk. They, like different than any other animal. They like trot. And I have they do look sly and slick and cunning. There's something about them that looks tricky. Maybe I just think that because in all the stories, the cunning, sly, tricky fox, so it's like I look at him that way, very possible. I don't know if anybody could figure out, I'm a curious guy, I can't figure out what is it. There has to be something that would represent how foxes behave, that would explain their out of place.
I think I heard that they're hard to keep out of places. They always find a way.
That would fit this. I've looked it up. I've tried. I don't want to force something, so I am not yet. I'm still young. When I'm older, I hope to know the answer. And right now, I don't know. I don't know why foxes, a lot of animals go where they shouldn't go. I don't know why the fox represents that, but it seems like in Chazal, the fox is out of place. So when it says, Tale bidnei sagale, bow to the fox in his time, the fox is that which is like where it shouldn't be, and the fox is that principal who shouldn't be principal, the teacher shouldn't be teacher, and the boss who shouldn't be a boss, but that's just, it's a backwards world. What? I don't know. I've read up. I don't know, not from a place, not having researched. I've actually been curious. Yeah, but that doesn't, I just still don't. Isn't there a song, What Sounds Do the Foxes Make?
Yeah.
So clearly they're like a little subterfuge there. We don't even know what sound they make. Does anybody know isn't that in the song, What Sound Does a Fox Make?
Yeah.
What does the fox say? It was.
That's a good point.
It's funny. You have a shot? Listen, Rabbi Brownstein has been. I've been looking my whole life.
They don't go away with a cheshbon. A regular animal, you know they're going to go right. There's a cheshbon to the way the animal runs. The fox just does. And there's no way to prepare where it's going to be next.
Really?
It doesn't follow cheshbon.
That's interesting. I never heard that. They run funny. Their movements are funny. Their movements are weird. He's very accurate. What's striking when you see a fox, he says, Rabbi Brownstein says you never know where they don't follow. You ever met a bacher? You meet guys in yeshiva, people have patterns that make sense. Every once in a while you meet a bacher like you do this and he doesn't respond normal. So Rabbi Brown says that's a fox, like what you expect him to go, he does. It is true when they run, they have weird movements. I didn't know that they don't go to the places that it's a weird, it's called a trot even. You call it a fox trots. My wife and I saw it that like animals don't move like that. It was something unique. Rabbi Brown says even where they go is unpredictable, so that's why they're out of place, that word. Interesting.
I don't. The entire yeshiva to Brasley Zoo, whatever that place is.
Do they have
called,
foxes
and
there?
Go to the zoo man and ask him this question: why are they?
It's a very good question.
We'll get the answer. Like,
he probably would know. He'll tell you.
We'll work for answers.
There's a Yid I know who's a zoologist. I've read his stuff. I was curious about him. So I'm sure he has a plan in this. I never got a chance to ask him, but I'm sure he has a plan in this. Okay. It's 12:50.
Oh, Beersley? I always wonder what's in that place. Five animals. I hope they have a fox.
You've heard my Tale Bidnei, but I never said the Oimek Rebezi. Tale Bidnei Sag, but I've spoken. It's Derech Eretz.
know?
What do you hold on me?
You seen it? Rebbe, they have a fox in the zoo. He's seen it.
Who's seen it? In Bradley? We gotta have fun.
Rebbe, we gotta go. We'll go to the zoo. It'll make their day. They're waiting for people to ask them
Not a
questions.
bad idea.
We gotta Davka drive all the way there for like an hour.
Really? You heard that? You heard? By Brownstein, Johnny said there's a term in the military, a foxtrot, and it refers to a chaotic situation. It's funny.
Really?
That's funny.
Foxtrot? Foxtrot, yeah. See, Foxtrot 1.
There have been many fox sightings in Blue Ridge. There have been quite a few fox sightings. The only I saw a march down the street. Raizon has videos. Raizon has seen it on. You've seen a fox in Blue Ridge, right, Russ? You saw one here last night? Where? A fox with the bushy tail and all. Say that again. Say what? Was it unexpected movements? It was. Right, Russ said. Right, Russ. He saw one last night and it was zigzagging. He said it was. That's funny. That's funny. Add a place. Interesting.
How is no cheshbon sly? Maybe that would be the opposite.
Well, maybe that's like the.
So
I don't know. We don't know if that's sly because in the Torah they're at a place. They're always then they convince the fish. Like all these chazal, the fox is the wrong place. So I don't know. Lo yodea. Kale be'idnei silently.
You should listen to this song, Rabbi. You should listen to the song.
I don't remember. Where is that song? What is that? It's a Chachach Magayim Tamin song?
Yeah. Play the song.
Because the a cappella group made it into what does Haman say or something.
Is that what happened?
Yeah, that's how that song became. Remember the a cappella 613 or some one of those groups made what does Haman say? So they whatever. Never mind. That's how I know that song.
I wanna say one more minute. It's time for mincha. I wanna say one more minute and then say goodbye. The 1 minute that I wanna say.
Could it be a long
We're
minute?
fasting today. My minute.
Okay.
We're fasting today, and there's different reasons. And one of the reasons is the Torah translated. It's very, very confusing. The Torah translated. All of us here. I'm a tremendous Art Scroll fan. They say the Chas v'Shalom, I'm not equating, not in a joking way, not in any way. Art Scroll has impacted the Dar and accessed Torah to the masses and done incredible work. And I have tremendous respect. I'm only asking, so what's the difference? Yavan wanted the Torah, this Talmai wanted the Torah translated, the Targum Shivim, and with 3 days of darkness descended to the world for translating the Torah. Isn't the translation a good thing? You're supposed to read the Torah. Shnaya Mikra ve'echad. Whoa, don't say the word. It's dangerous. Targum, if it translates, what's going on? Very good, Avi. Shnai Mikra ve'echad Targum. Halacha Taf Reish, in Reish Pei Hey, it didn't Shulchan Aruch. Reish Pei Hey, it says to read the Torah, Shnai Mikra ve'echad Targum. And here we have Targum. That's the Torah was translated, and 3 days of darkness descended to the world. This is the Targum Shivim, what we call in English the Septuagint. The Chachamim were put in different cubicles, were told by Talmai to translate the Torah. He told them, if you change anything, I'm going to murder you all, and I'll know you in 70 different boxes. They all made a few changes. And a nace happened that they were mechaven to the same changes. Now you're not allowed to change any halach in the Torah. The Yam Shel Shloim in Baba Kama says you're mechuyev to die, not to change a law in the Torah. You have to give up your life. If a guy asks you a halach and the halach is against the guy, and you know by answering he'll shoot you, you're mechuyev to tell him the truth and let him do what he wants. You're mechuyev to tell him the truth. Because you're not let it change a law in the Torah, even at the point of getting killed. You have to die for it.
Supposed to let it kill you?
Oh, beat him up, to throw karate kicks. It just means if he's stronger, so even if it comes to dying, you're not allowed to change a pasuk in the Torah. But you're not allowed to change halacha in the Torah. You're not allowed to change the law. So how did they change? The Yam Shlomo asked, how did they make changes in the Targum Shibn? They didn't change any law. They just changed the words so he would get a pshat that would be much more reflect the truth. They didn't change the law. They changed the word in the Torah. What? They didn't change any law. None of their changes were a change in the law. That is what the Yam Shlomo says. Now, the question is, what's wrong with the Targum? I don't want to answer the question because it's a very good question. I want to say something that everybody has to know. Art Scroll is not a translation, it's a pirush. Onkelos is not a translation, he's a pirush. Nobody touches Torah. Torah is not allowed to be touched. Torah are the words that we have right here. That's Torah. Anybody is supposed to say a pshat. I should have my pshat, you should have yours, you should have yours. Art Scroll is a tremendous pirush. They are not the Torah. They're a pirush of the Torah. Art Scroll is Torah Shabbal Peh. It's a pirush. It's a pirush. They're mefarish what the Torah says. What's the Torah? The words that are untouched, unchanged. Yavan wanted the Torah, take the Torah and give us the Torah in Yavani, and that will be the Torah. This will be the Torah now says. If you would take Art Scroll and say this is the Torah, and you'd start reading Art Scroll, that's the Torah, and you would read that as the Torah, the entire world would go dark. Because the words of the Torah have pshatim endless and deep and eternal. Hashem's words are supposed to be read by Yosef, and Yosef has a certain perspective of those words. Read by me, and I have a perspective. At the point you take one pirush and you say that's the Torah, you have destroyed the Torah. That's a pirush. A beautiful, successful pirush of the Torah. Yavan wanted the Torah is here. Give it to us in Yavani. Tell us your best pshat, and this will be Torah. Oh, so that's what the Torah is? That's what Yavan wanted. They did not want the Torah Hashem that every human being studies and wraps their mind around and figures out. When you learn with guys, when you explain things to people, any curious person ultimately wants to show me where it says and what it says. And they're supposed to study the Dvar Hashem and then put it through their system, and they'll connect and relate in a certain way. I'm allowed to have a pirush. There were leaders who took their pirush and made it Torah. That's very cult-like. And there were people who took their pirush and made it Torah. That's Yavan. That is, we have a tainus today on that. The words of Torah, the Dvar Hashem. Say a pirush. You are supposed to say a pirush. There's Torah Shabbal Peh. And there are as many pirushim as there are Yidden alive. Each of us have a right to a pirush of the Torah, to work and study and delve on Hashem's words, and then say a pirush. When you take these words, translate them, and make it, this is Torah. You take a pirush and turn it into Torah, Chayshech descends into the world. This, Yavan said, give us your best pshat, and that's Torah. We don't want an infinite chachma that every single human being can bond and connect with. We don't want, give us your smartest man and the best pshat, and that will be Torah. Okay, so we can relate to that. That's Chachma. Whoa, that's because in Chachma, that's how it works. You have a Dvar Chachma, an intelligent statement. So give us the smartest pshat from the smartest man, and we'll accept you have a Torah. That's what they were asking for. That will be Torah. And that's 3 days of Chayshech on the world. Chalila v'chas. The words of Torah remain these words of Hashem. If you want a pirush, we'll give you a pirush of Torah. It's even funny, they said 70 chacham in different rooms write out the Torah. Give us your best pshat is what they're saying. What do you mean? There are going to be 70 pshatim, pirushim. If you put 70 chachamim, you should want 70 pirushim of Torah. The words of Torah, the Dvar Hashem. and then each person putting into the Dvar Hashem, and we're Zaycha to beautiful Pirushim, and we study Pirushim of the Torah, and the way Hashem told us His words through Rashi, through Rashi, we hear the Dvar Hashem, through Taisvis, through the Ramban, through the Rashbam, through the Radak, through Onkelos, we hear the Dvar Hashem, and that's how Hashem wrote the Torah. But the words of Torah remain the words of Torah. Always go back to them. Always read them. I always appreciate Reb Miller when he quotes a pasuk or a chazal. There's like a reverence to the words itself. You could say whole drushes and beautiful things. I told you my own way of understanding Talei Bidnei Sagilei. If you take what I said, that's my pirush. The Torah said, Talei B'idnei Sagli. Those are the words of Chazal. Learn the words of the Chumash. Learn the words of Chazal. There's tremendous power in the words of Torah, in the words of Chazal. We're entitled and supposed to say a pirush. We're supposed to study the words of Torah and the words of Chazal, but the words of Torah remain the words of Torah. Yavan wanted to alter that. They wanted to distort that and change that and take a pirush and make it Torah. The best pirush, the perfect pirush. Get a collection of Chachamim and let's get some consensus here and that will be Torah. No. Torah is the Dvar Hashem, then studied by every single Yid who studies the Dvar Hashem. Unchanged. Art Scroll is tremendous. What a pirush. What a pirush. That speaks to the generation. Talmidei Chacham who said a pirush. It's a wonderful pirush, and learn the pirush. Excellent. And always remember the divrei Torah that they're being mefarish. The words of Torah that they're being mefarish, that are unchanged, and are there and always there for a yid to go back, to be mefarish, to understand, to attach to connect to, and to understand. So that is just maybe a simplistic way, some way of understanding the Chayshech. That one of the sibos of this tinus of what happened. It's very fascinating. I'm going Be'ez Hashem, B'siyata D'Shmaya Teretz Yisrael. And I get to see in Eretz Yisrael B'nai Torah at very precious and impressive stages of their growth. Guys steiging and plugged in and putting in days of davening, of tefillah, of learning, and the contrast of going to Eretz Yisrael and seeing a guy who young was struggling, was fighting for minyanim, and then to see him in a state of more success at the minyanim, at the davening, and the contrast is fascinating. And I just want to say to everybody, to all of us, that all our lives we're supposed to be fighting for things. All our lives. That we're working and fighting. There's success, and we'll all taste in all our struggles much success, but there's a tremendous Kiddush Shamayim in the fight. The Iker Kiddush Shamayim is in the struggle. When it looks more successful, they struggle all our lives. It's not always as a parent to everybody. The Iker Kiddush Shamayim is that we're engaged in fighting for something. That's the Iker way we're all Mekadosh Shamayim. We all look at where we want to get to, at the Tzipisa Yeshua, of where we want to get to. But the Talei Bidnei Sagidlei, the fight, amidst the struggle is tremendously precious. Tremendous Kiddush Shamayim comes. I always find it funny that when I come back from Eretz Yisrael, I try to over here give over the beauty I saw there. And it's important to know about all the successes, and we're fighting for success. Somebody could stay in fight mode and almost not even, in a certain way, not trying for success. That's wrong. We're supposed to be Kovish Es Yitzray. We're supposed to have success. The Baal Tshuva, when he's first becoming from, struggles to keep Shabbos. 3 years later, he flawlessly keeps Shabbos. The goal is to flawlessly keep Shabbos. The Kiddush Shamayim was the struggle. When he flawlessly keeps it, Rabbi Yisrael says he gets schar for struggling. It's almost dangerous. A guy could purposely stay struggling because it's dangerous. The goal is to flawlessly keep Shabbos. The Kiddush Shamayim is that he struggled to make himself a flawless observer of Shabbos. but you could get to flawless observance of Shabbos, to comfortable, to easy. The goal is to get there. So certainly I try here, when I come back, to give a picture of success that I am zeicha to see, but when I'm there, I try to remind a picture of struggle, for it's beautiful. So I want to share with us, I want to say that the success I'm going to see, everything done here, I feel in many ways, I feel like a Ganav always on this trip. I go there representing, I'm the Menayel here, and there's tremendous celebration of beautiful journeys, and I'm a Ganav, like people ask, you go to the airport and there's a scene, I don't think we're having it this year, so you go to the airport, there's a scene, so people ask, whoa, does that create gaiva? It creates ganav, thief, a robber. It creates a sense of a ganav. It's the success of chevra that's sincere, that's authentic, that's pushing, that's fighting for something. Well, the chevra right here. Our chevra, Bezi, our chevra. But no, together, it's a chevra together. But the beauty of this chabura, the beauty of sincerity, the beauty of growth, the beauty of respecting somebody else who's struggling, the security with our own ruchnius, to allow another person to struggle. So all of us should have, in our journeys, should have tremendous siyata d'shmaya in the struggles that we're all presently engaged, each of us in our own place in life, and the successes that will surely come, the successes that we're going to come, and then the next struggle should have siyata d'shmaya in all the aspects of our journeys. We're going to daven mincha right now. Rabbi Brownstein Meyer will be what time? 5:10 Meyer, and then the break.